在清华大学的第2次学位。那么他的这个第一次是关于民族主义研究的新的困惑，就是上一次。大家如果对有些也许来的人，可能有一些没有参加上一次讲演的，也可以到网上去查那个人文社会有一个稿子，是他们已经在网上传播开来的这个记录稿，所以可以看一看上一次那个演讲的那个内容。那么今天的讲演的题目，我就今天不再介绍这个安德森教授。那今天演讲的题目是这个东南亚华人认同的悖论。那么主要是以泰国、柬埔寨和菲律宾这3个国家为中心来展开这个论述。今天的这个论述，因为最近这些
没声音了，
这个可以吧？听得见吧？最近这些年，这个安德森教授他在每年都有相当一段时间是住在东南亚，其中主要是在泰国。所以这些观察，很多是他最新的这些分析和观察。所以我们现在就用热烈的掌声欢迎安德森教授的讲演。
This talk for you all, I don't want you to take it too seriously. I'm having fun with it and probably make many mistakes because I'm not really a specialist on China at all. What I'm interested in is the craziness of the political struggle in Thailand, which I watch almost every day, and I'm trying to have a different explanation from what most of the magazines and journals say and what the political scientists. So you have to be ready for some strange things. Let me begin by saying that when I was a little boy, maybe 9, 10 years old, I started to be fascinated and enjoyed by the many stories of Sherlock Holmes. I don't know whether you mostly know him, but he's fantastic, the first major crazy detective in English literature, and he takes drugs, opium, very shocking, but he's very clever. And I always remember what he said to Watson, who is very stupid but nice. He said, well, when you're looking for a solution to a problem, don't look at what you can see, look at what you can't see. And when I started to become a scholar and a teacher, I always tell my students, don't look at you can look at what you have in front of you, but the first thing you think about is what is missing. And then you get some very interesting things happening. So remember Sherlock Holmes, he's a good man. In the big struggle for political power in Thailand over the last 50 years or more, it is getting more and more hot, more and more violent, more huge mobilizations and oratory or speeches made by both the Reds and the Yellows, the two groups. I noticed something very interesting. For example, the language is very ugly. The Prime Minister, who is the first woman Prime Minister, Yingluck, is always said, people yell at her and say that she's a prostitute, that she's very stupid, that she's just a puppet for her brother. But For the men, it's also very severe. That is, you can hear everybody saying, this guy is a reptile, like a dirty reptile, an idiot, a gangster, a homosexual, a traitor, an agent of enemy spies, a coward, a dirty dog, corrupt, and corrupting other people. Uneducated, educated. I like that. I like uneducated, educated. I know many people like that. Tyrant, heinous, anyway, all kinds of things. The interesting thing is the word that doesn't appear. Actually, it's a perfectly good, gentle, not very hard swear word. And this is the word Jack. Jack is an old standard word for a overseas Chinese. It just means you came from China and you immigrated here. But in the last 30, 40 years, the rich Chinese bourgeois, they think this is very insulting. So they want to have a high-class name instead of just Jack. But if actually you go to the countryside, you will see restaurants which say, nice restaurant, nice Jack restaurant, and nobody's upset about this. So why is it not there? Why does nobody use this, which they could? Now, there's another name that is used. It's a very awkward one, which also started only about, say, 30 years ago. Intellectuals and students who belong to this this mixed Chinese overseas asked to be called Lu Jing, which means son of or child of a Chinese. Which is rather strange because no other, Siam is full of maybe 50 or 60 minorities, but they never call themselves child of this or child of that. But it sounds rather grand. You're not just ordinary person or a child of China, even if your mother is not Chinese. So this was a puzzle. That's the first thing that I want to mention to you. And then I would tell you a little bit about what journalists and academics, foreign and local, try to explain the violence and the anger and the hatred and all that. What's it all about? Well, what you find in the newspapers is this is a struggle between conservatives and populists. No. It's a dictatorship against democracy. No. It's class against class. Partly, yes, but not the whole solution. Pro or for monarchy or against monarchy. Yes, that's part of it. Honesty against corruption. Or it could be Bangkok arrogance against the rest of the country, which is also partly true. But actually, this doesn't explain the most striking aspect of the struggle. And that is the regional distribution of the two big, what should I say, the two big political sides of this, the reds and the yellows. And what is striking is that the South is completely in the hands of the, say, the yellows. Bangkok is heavily in favor of the yellows, but the north and the northeast is all red or heavily red. And there is no explanation on the grounds of class conflict really to explain this, nor does it have anything to do with democracy or more. So the thing is to see what is it that explains this. They never talk about this regional distribution. And this regional distribution has been there for a long time. So it isn't as if commentators shouldn't think about this, but it looks as if it's invisible to them. So what I want to say is something about this strange regional distribution. Then I have to cheer you up with a little story that some of you heard already. Last time I spoke to students. But it's interesting enough that it tends to explain something which I never expected. It happened like this. I was going to the airport, a very long drive in a taxi cab early one morning. And the taxi man was an old Chinese man from Chinatown, very nice. And we got to talking about the situation. I asked him who he supported. And he said, oh, of course, I support Thaksin, Red Leader. So I said, well, you like his policies, you like his attempts to give more social support, help and so forth for poor people. And he said, no. The reason I'm supporting him is because he's a Hakka, and I'm a Hakka too. And we Hakkas are the only honest people in Thailand today. We work very hard. We have the courage to fight against the Manchu. We didn't torture the legs of our women. We work very hard, and we're not pretentious. I thought, well, that's something. But then I asked him, well, what about the Abhisik, who's the head of the Yellows? What? He is one of those goddamn Fujian people. And they're so tricky and lazy, and they are completely untrustworthy and opportunists. They're mean to other people and so forth. No. Well, there's another very important person in the politics right now, and this is a man called Suthep. What about him? Hainanese. Terrible. These people are so dirty they never even wash. And they are very ignorant and stupid and cruel if they get a chance. Never, never, never trust any Hainanese. Then I got really brave and I said, well, the other important player is the king. You support him? He said, no. He's one of those goddamn Petu who are opportunists, and they always suck up to people who are more important than them, and they came here because they couldn't land in Vietnam or Indonesia or Philippines and so forth, because they were so cowardly, so they came to this place because they thought they would be safe. So, all the main players, of course, are some kind of overseas Chinese, before top book. But he hates 3 of them and not 1 of them. So I got me thinking, well, maybe there's something here, maybe we should look at or think about the identities of the overseas. Are they Chinese or are they something else? How should we think about it? Yeah, I mean, the fact is that if you look at the way they behave, both sides are quite violent. Both sides are very corrupt. Both sides are hypocritical. Some of both sides are paranoid. But they're good at getting big crowds. And they like to use hidden gunmen on both sides. and they tell a lot of lies. But is this enough? Because in most countries in the world, politicians are a little like this. So I decided what I would do this evening is to give you a little bit of a background which is not very good, but it points out at least some of the peculiarities of the history of people. I don't know what to call them. A student was making fun of me. He said, well, if you don't want to call them, you can call all these overseas people. Just say they're Taiwanese, and that's enough. And I said, I hope he was joking. But anyway, I'm not going to use that. Now the story begins basically in the end of the Ming dynasty, where Beijing itself didn't fight very hard, but the south, Guangdong, Fujian, were the last and most brave enemies of the Manchu American. When they were losing and they knew what the punishment that would come to them, they had the skills, with goats and others, to flee outside the Middle Kingdom. And it was this kind of pattern to that. I mean, the highest of the group were the Cantonese, and mostly they worked down the coast of Vietnam, was close by. Then you further down in the Vietnam, Cambodia area, you have the Fujian people who also went to the Philippines, also went to Indonesia, and then the Teju followed them. And the latest ones came much later, were the Halam and the Hakka. Now it so happened, I should say one thing first of all, that we really don't know anything about what these people who went overseas thought about who they were. Most of them were virtually illiterate. But there's one very telling thing that still makes me laugh. From the early days of the Spanish colonization of the Philippines, Fujian traders went back and forth between Manila and, I think, Guangdong, making a good profit and being very successful. And the stupid Spanish asked them, "Who are you?" And the reply was, "Sengli." Are there any people here from Fujian or not? Well, it's supposed to mean, in the language of Fujian, it means tradesman or merchant. So the Spanish said, "Oh, that's your nationality, that's your ethnicity." So right up until the late 19th century, they called them Sanglayas, until everybody woke them up and said, well, look, they're Chinese. And so they changed to Chino. But if the traders said we're traders, and didn't say we are Fujian, and didn't say they were Chinese, it gives you an idea that they had no big identity. The identities are small villages, language speakers, relatives, and so forth. It took a lot of time for that to change. By accident, as far as China is concerned, what very important was that the old kingdom in Thailand, from Ayutthaya, which had lasted for about 400 years, was completely destroyed by invading Burmese army. The whole capital was burned to the ground. Everything was stolen that could be stolen. Everybody who was still alive was put on carts and taken to Burma. The whole aristocracy of the old regime simply didn't exist anymore, and the last king died of hunger. So there was a huge devastation in the central and southeast part of Thailand. And in this case, something very odd and unique happened. There was a boy, young boy, who was born to a Tetu man and a local woman. And this father was a very intelligent and successful man. He had originally lived, I'll show you on the screen so you get some idea. This is the bay of Thailand. And you can see here, this is where Thailand and Cambodia meet. And this place called Chandaburi was where the Jews were mostly living at that time. And it was safe because the pirates didn't come, no bad kings came by, and they were good ship people. And this father decided one day that he would go to the capital, which is here, and very quickly he was given charge of all the gambling in the royal city and made a lot of money. His son was a good-looking boy, and he was adopted by a Ayutthaya noble. And when the Burmese came, he fought on the side of Ayutthaya, but after they were defeated, this young man by that time went back to here and organized a very big navy to come back and push the Burmese away, get rid of them. And he also recruited a lot of local people who wanted also to have their kingdom back and the Burmese defeated. And he turned out to be a very good and competent general, and he got rid of most of them, and was still is very venerated in Thailand. But he was also quite cruel, as kings usually were in those days. And he was a bit paranoid, which is also common. And eventually, after 14 years as king, there was a coup d'etat against him by his own generals. And he was executed by them, and all his family and relatives were also killed. And the man who organized the coup d'etat is the first of the current dynasty, the Chakri dynasty, which is still here now. The important thing about this is that there's nowhere else in Southeast Asia that a Chinese became a big king in Southeast Asia. And there's a nice indication here, because he applied several times to Beijing, asking Beijing to recognize him as a king. But only at the last minute did Beijing say okay, because they didn't like the idea of a Chinese king outside China. That wasn't what the plan was. And that meant that while he was still in power, 14 years, he did everything he could to encourage Tetus to come to his capital. And they were moved from Chanthaburi to the capital, which was something new. It was a port city capital, so that ships could come there and the trade could expand very rapidly. And this was a huge success for the Tetu, who were regarded by other speaking groups as not important, small, and so forth, but in Siam. It's always been important from that time. So this became the dominant speech group really right up to the present. It's the largest minority among the overseas Chinese, and they move very high up. The nobility that survived and married Tetu, and Tetu got good jobs at the court and became the number one type of successful overseas Chinese. This capital created by King Tai is still, that's basically what Bangkok still is. And the interesting thing is that the royal family, right up until the 1870s or 1860s, signed all documents with a Chinese seal. And the seal is maybe somebody you can explain to me, it's this red seal which says that the lineage is Ma. It belonged to all the Ma's that existed in China. And it was only really in the nationalist 20th century that the idea that the king could be a Fakyao, could be the immigrant, was very embarrassing, and the king started to say, well, they were nationalists and they were really true Thais. But if you look at the faces and the many other things, they are clearly not the original, ordinary people of the country. So this is very interesting and strange. Though it's probably coming soon, to its end very soon. This success of the Tetu to have a king of their own, as it were, and to flock into Bangkok and become very important to the king, not only Thap, but the man who executed him was also Tetu, half and half anyway. And with this, the Hokkien, who had also been in Chantaburi, started to move south. And the reason they started moving south was the finding on the western side of the southern Thailand, and of course just as important in Malaya. And so the way that the Hokkiens moved is here. They moved down the coast because it's here, let's see, it's in this area that there were a lot of mines which were opened by these people who had the skill to know how to do not yet industrial. And being on this side, next down is Penang, and below that, Singapore. So the Hokkiens were actually on both sides of the border, especially in Singapore and Penang. So they were leaving the capital to go into this new business, which they were really good at. The next thing is that not too long after the establishment of the dynasty started the British imperialist opium wars on the southern side or ports of China, and forcibly opened, I think, Guangdong and Tsinghua first, and then later swapped out. And added to that, and perhaps also involved in that in some way, was the colossal Taiping rebellion from 48 to 1840, 1865, which was in fact, if I'm not wrong, led by some Hakkas, but had many other people joining it. And the violence of this rebellion by the rebels, but even more so by the generals that were sent to crush it, meant a huge upheaval in the south of China, and enormous numbers of people fled for their lives to different parts of Southeast Asia. And it's really at this time that the Hakka started to come to escape from the Manchus. And they started as farmers in an area west of Bangkok, near to the Indian Ocean, feeling that they would be safe there from anything that the Manchus might do. And also at the same time, Hainan also, but they went in a different direction. They went right to the south here. This is Hakka initially doing agriculture, and Hainan here, important port, and all the way down here. So that this southern area, up till today, is controlled by Fujian and Hainan. And the leaders of the Yellow Party all come from this area. That will tell you something. The next disastrous or amazing development, I mean the stress under which these overseas Chinese must have been under is really amazing. And I should point out that in those days there were no women coming from China to leave China. That didn't come until the steamboat, much later. And also, periodically, the Manchu said anybody who has left China and wants to come back will be immediately executed. So there wasn't much reason to want to get back to China under those circumstances. It should be said one other thing, that the Hainanese or Hailanese were the poorest of all these speech groups. But they had one great advantage when it came to, they were actually immune to tropical diseases. So statues were dying by the hundreds, sometimes 1,000, so did the Hokkiens. And the malaria is the most important, but they had already a tropical body makeup. Let's see, I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can so that it's not too boring. The next most important thing, and this is something I want you really to remember. It always makes me laugh. You know? The most important for the overseas people in Thailand, who had basically worked for the monarchy. That is, they managed the trade, they found the products, and of course they got benefits from the monopoly held by the court. But in 1855, the bullying British came roaring into Bangkok and gave a flat ultimatum to the fourth king of that dynasty, actually an interesting man, and said, you have to do what we tell you, otherwise you could have big trouble and maybe you might get shot or something like that. And the funny thing is, the target of the British was to break the royal monopoly. And they said, what you have to accept is, guess what? Free trade. It wasn't called neoliberalism then, but it's more or less the same. And the great thing about this diplomat, his name is John Bowring, and he's only thing he's famous from outside Siam is that he quoted my favorite, very, very favorite economic slogan. It goes like this. I'll say it very slowly so you will never forget it. He said, free trade is Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ is fair trade. That's really something. Marx discovered him writing this rubbish. And he wrote a whole article saying this was one of the most hypocritical and dishonest imperialists that he'd ever heard about. So always hug this in your mind. It's a favorite of mine. He did. So the monopoly of the court was destroyed, which made it very difficult for the Chinese, some Chinese anyway, were used to working under the court. And once the ports all the way down the side of the western shore, where the tin mines were, where Penang was and Singapore were, the major new import was, as you can imagine, was opium from British India. And you will recall that actually if you look at the people complain about the Colombians, for example, in Colombia spreading drugs all over the world, especially to America, there is nothing like the scale on which the British operated. So you have to remember Britain were the #1 drug dealers and gangsters in that sense in history. Now, it turned out that this arrival of opium on the western ports, but also sometimes in Bangkok, was the kind of new kind of way of handling it had to be done. And this was the system of the tax farm. I don't know whether you're familiar with tax farm. But it's basically when the ruler holds an auction and said, you can have whatever taxes you can get out of the local people, but you have to give me a price, otherwise I won't give you the permission to do this. Well, of course, you have to be very rich to accept this, but also once you have it, you can get very rich indeed. And furthermore, because these overseas Chinese who took these tax farms, they had to have a lot of labor, because they had to be sure that the next door winner in the auction secretly comes into his area and grabs his opium or does something bad. And they needed a lot of young men, tough young men, to protect the tax farm, make sure that the boss got all that he expected. And the opium was so successful, at least from the court, that from around the 1870s, the 50% of the national budget from, let's say, 1870 up until 1955, all through, year by year, half the budget come from the opium. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the opium is used in a very funny way, because officially non-Chinese are not allowed to have drugs. But for lonely young men working on projects and doing all kinds of things, canals and construction buildings, alone except for their fellow speech group people, they were desperate, and the clever way to keep their money still inside Siam and not sent back to China was a tax farm in alcohol, tax farm in prostitution, tax farm in gambling. So basically most of these youngsters, if they didn't die quickly at least, ended up very poor, and the money went into the hands of the bosses of the tax farm organizations. It was out of this, in part, the struggle over control of the disposition of opium drugs, that what people in Thailand call Ang Yi. And I suspect this is a word from the Teochew language. It basically means a secret society which were controlled by people who had been around a long time, were actually already quite wealthy, and could use young men of the same speech group to be the tough guys who actually do the killings or beatings of anybody who threatened these various tax farms. And because there was always friction between the boss for here and the boss for there and the boss from there, they weren't really fighting against the king, but they had an incredible amount of violent episodes as these secret societies fought each other, burned down each other's towns, tried to intimidate this, and right up until just before around 1900. These were very dangerous groups of people, and very much accustomed to fighting with every method that was possible. It was only suppressed when one of the big British policemen in Singapore, who had managed the suppression of the secret societies in Singapore, which were also very tough, also about opium. And he worked it out. So officially, the Ang Yi more or less disappeared, but actually it didn't. It reappeared in the 30s during the Depression. After World War I, something else important happened, which was that for 25 years there was a huge open gate for migrant Chinese. I think because of the warlord period here, people just didn't know what was going to happen next. And annually about 100,000 people in the 20s came to Bangkok to this. And this was something much bigger than had ever happened before. But it didn't change, actually, the basic distributions. And this is interesting for you, that not excluding, not including women for this. But here are some data on the population, Chinese population of Bangkok. And it's really quite fascinating. That is, the Teochews controlled 97% of all the pawn shops. I hope you know this isn't P-O-R-N. It's P-A-W-N. And they also control something of that percent of the rice mills, which were very good. I mean, that's the tetu. The sawmillers, people who did sawing of trees and so forth in factories, this was 85% in the hands of Hainanese. The people who used leather or specialized in leathery businesses, 98% of these were Hakka. Machine shops, 59% were Cantonese. Tailors, 90% Hakka. Chinese medicine people, 92% tetu. Barbers, 50% Hainanese. Restaurant owners, 50% Cantonese. Rubber exporters, 87% Fujian. So this Chinese community is very sharply distinguished by the occupation, by different kinds of groups, and they, especially the wealthy ones, the top ones, did everything to make sure that the other ones didn't come barging in and wanting to have a few pawn shops of their own and some rice mills and so forth. That was quite tense, actually. But one advantage at that moment was that the railways started to be created, and also highways, so that it was possible for people to move much far away from the center. And you can see this in the map on Misha show. If you notice the really black parts, that doesn't mean devils. It means overseas Chinese. And you'll see that up here it's practically blank, far away from the sea, and only when the railway line finally was built here, people started to move in that direction. And at the same time, the railway up to the north of the country started to draw Hainanese, and up there at the very top, Hakkas. And Thaksin, the head of the Reds, is a Hakka who came from there. His grandfather was the person who moved the family up to this city, almost on the border of Laos. And this is a difficult time for the overseas, because there's a lot of pressure on them to, in the name of Sun Yat-sen and the Japanese invasion of China and the horrible occupation there, they should come and help. But there was clearly a struggle inside the movement, and later on, of course, it became a struggle between those who sympathized with Mao Zedong and those who sympathized with Chiang Kai. How could it suddenly escape me? Chiang Kai-shek, yeah. Old man's brain. And this got very difficult because the richer and most successful of these overseas people were close to Chiang Kai-shek, and the ones that were not well off, and some intellectuals tended to be sympathetic to communists. And the question then is, all these new arrivals, what are you going to do about your identity? Well, there's pushing to say, yes, you are a Chinese who happens to be overseas. But there's also an idea, well, yeah, but we plan to live here, and On the whole, we have a nice time here. We can be successful and do well. Maybe we should be loyal to the country that we have settled in. And I don't think this one has ever been really solved. It's a very complicated relationship. Okay, we're getting near to, I'm not going to talk about the communist period at all, but after the war, World War II, many Chinese were in a difficult situation because the rulers of Thailand were no longer clearly an absolute monarch, but it's actually by the military. And the loyalty of these Chinese to the system in Thailand was suspect. Intelligence, army, police, and of course Washington were concerned about them as suspects, troublemakers, spies, harassed by the army and police. And it's not incorrect, because in fact the founders of the Thai Communist Party were basically Bangkok or nearby poor people, workers, who were attracted and then eventually formed, rather late, a communist party which didn't get to guerrilla forces or activities until the middle 60s, but it's there. Now the next step in this whole process is that really the economy of Thailand was completely in the hands of different Chinese-speaking groups, but not the politics. They didn't have really much influence in politics, especially under the military dictatorships. And in the second generation, there were many overseas Chinese who wanted their children to be not just business people, but to be bureaucrats and to be professionals, lawyers, judges, doctors, teachers, and so forth. Because the business was not regarded as a high social occupation. You want to be high, then you get to have a title. You are Dr. so-and-so, you are Professor so-and-so, you are Judge so-and-so. And the Chinese were very hungry for this kind of title. And one reason they were trying to be close to the monarchy is that they knew that they could get feudal type titles if they financed the activities of some of the policies of the getting near the promise. And after World War II, a lot of these second generation Chinese sent their children to be studying in universities in Britain and in America. Now they were rescued actually by the Americans, surprisingly. That is, in the course of the Cold War, the Americans decided that the country had only 2 universities, very hard to get into, and this was wrong, and there should be universities all over the country. And within 5 or 6 years, absolutely amazing, those universities were built, and the total number of students every year changed from 15,000 to over 100,000. And this was perfect for everybody actually, but especially for the overseas, because they could get into universities which they themselves had no chance of doing. And actually, if you really want to know, in the most common form of bribery in corruption in Thailand today, happens every day, is mothers bribing teachers huge sums of money to let their children, probably not very intelligent children, into good schools. It's notorious that you can't get in unless you pay a big sum secretly. But it's in a good cause. Okay, now let's see, we get to the end. Yeah. Okay, the interesting thing about this is the royalty regime was quite cunning. I mean, even today, if you go to the National Museum, there's a lovely a photo sort of exhibition of the history of Thailand, but there are no Thais in it at all. There are only a mention of names of 4 kings. That's all. It's very weird. Thailand doesn't have any heroes, and that's really quite striking. But it means that there's no problem about, well, you're Techu and I'm this and that. The monarchy was able to absorb the overseas quite easily. Let's see. Things started to come apart really when the military regime collapsed in 1973 and the top generals had to leave the country. And this was organized, a huge popular uprising in Bangkok, which included almost people of every class. And for the first time, a genuinely democratic government was formed. Students and teachers were very important in generating this. And it worked for about 2 years, and then unfortunately the monarch got paranoid about the elimination of the monarchy in Laos next door, and he turned on the brutes, and there was a massive massacre of students in the most important university at that time. Their bodies were strung up on the biggest park, and they'd been tortured in many horrible ways. And the leftist students had to flee, and they fled into the forests and the far parts of the country to join the Communist Party. And most of these young leaders were actually overseas Chinese, but they were very determined to show that they were Thai, whereas the party itself thought of itself as Chinese. So there was a lot of friction between the two, and eventually most of the youngsters went back when the Communist Party was betrayed by Deng Xiaoping. The remarkable who came down and said, well, I'm closed down all the help for that, and you have to do this for me, and so forth. So the left was really destroyed in a very short time, thanks to Mother China. Let's see if we can just get into the very end. Let's see. This is the interesting thing, that after the fall of the Communist Party, then there was no more Cold War in Asia, really. And this was very happy, so that all the leftists in Thailand, who in the period after the downfall of the military had actually formed left-wing, legal left-wing political parties. But after 1977, there's never been a left-wing party again in Thailand. All the parties are conservative, neoliberal, etc., etc. And this is the perfect time for the bourgeois, including not only the Chinese. One of the signs of this was a huge extension of the banks in in Thailand. And the importance of this is like that they had branches everywhere, all over the country, and the banks were bigger than the building of the governor of the provinces. And this was perfect because young, or not very young, but anyway, people, especially Chinese who wanted to go be political, the banks were perfect. They could borrow lots of money to run for office and to pay off their people that were helping them and so forth. So, and these people were very often controllers of the illegal huideng, gambling. They were into real estate, smuggling and so forth, and were basically immune to local law courses. Without anything to fight them with, because the whole left had collapsed. That these people really became sort of like small warlords and very eager to become members of parliament, where they would have all kinds of chances to get higher jobs, all kinds of money for projects in various types. And these people were perfectly happy to move from one party to another. Now the strange thing about this period, when small businessmen become much larger businessmen, is that they used exactly the same methods of the Anyi earlier on. These people were quite scary, and they were given the name Japo, which means big boss in Thai languages. And what was very striking in the 80s and the 90s was that for the first time since the 19th century, killings were going on, which were not vertical. I mean, it wasn't the state killing the left or anything like that. It's businessmen who want to be politicians and other businessmen who want to be politicians. And the methods are all exactly like the Anyi. I mean, assassinations by hired gunmen, ambushes, bomb throwing, and so forth and so forth. And you suddenly realize something that's rather fascinating, which is that this is the first time that anybody in Thailand thought it was worthwhile becoming a politician. And in fact, so great was the attraction of quote-unquote democracy, which means I can get to be in parliament, that it's a good idea to get rid of this other guy and his followers and so forth. And that meant that they had to rely on their own families. If you look at the families of these top politicians today, they fill every possible job they can think of to their relatives, their sisters, their uncles, their boyfriends, whatever it is. It's much more markedly family-oriented now, and people are much less ashamed of this, but it's clearly, much more clearly among the overseas Chinese than it is about the other peoples. And it ends really with the crash of the 1997, which the Thai bureaucracy had actually caused. And a huge amount of people went bankrupt. And the old financial elite had lost a huge amount of money, and so did the monarch. And many people lost jobs, unemployment, and so forth. And it's at this point that the new kind of politician who doesn't want to be just a member of parliament, but wants to have control of the state and wants to be the prime minister and state prime minister. And that's what this is really about. That is, they want to be heroes in their own different ways. And they talk less and less about the royal monarchy, because the king is 84 now and is bound to die very soon. His wife is hopelessly ill, and the children are all absolutely, especially the son, who is supposed to be the successor, are absolutely hopeless and despised by almost everybody. So with the idea that the monarchy is coming to an end, who knows when, but it can come, then the next thing to look forward to is to be president of the Republic of Thailand. They'll never say so, but that's exactly what's in their minds. The question is who is going to be it, and who is the armor? What's their support? And it's this system of small warlords and so forth in each of these big territories. That means that they can be absolutely sure they're going to win in those territories, but not in other territories. And this is a frustration to everybody. That is, the reds can't penetrate the yellow, and the yellow can't do the other. I mean, the south is yellow and the north is red. And the difficulty also is that they can't say to them publicly that anything about their Chineseness, because it would be absurd to announce publicly that I'm a Chinese and I'm going to be the president of the republic. I mean, everybody knows they are, but it's not nice to say so. That's why it's not used as a weapon. They're very violent, and both sides use professional gunmen, massive money, politics, and they use it not so much at the local level, there's a lot of it, but at the top it's used as an intimidation. That is, what they do is to, for example, bomb your house when you're not there. And that means watch out, because if you try anything anymore, we'll really blow you up. And both sides do this. And because they have this gunmen, some of which come from the police and the military, moonlighting, it's this huge crowds and the inability of people to know who is the spy, who is really working for this, that, and the other, that makes this very scary and at the same time laughable situation. So, and there's no obvious way out. I mean, unless one of them gets killed or something of that kind. But don't fool yourself. This is about democracy. It's not anything to do with that. It's to do whether the, shall we say, that they choose keep their top position, or whether it's the turn of the Hakkas and what about the Highland, who are coming up very fast these days. Okay, sorry, it's too long, but it's rather fascinating, and I hope that you can follow it.
谢谢这个安德任教授的这个讲演。要我来做翻译呢，也是挺困难的，说因为好多的这个当地的语言我不懂，我只能最简要的做一个说明。他一开始当然就是说他最近这个对这个泰国，他是从这儿来观察的。那么从这个泰国的这个政治斗争的某种疯狂的这个状态，也是用了好几次 prejudice。我们也从从这个媒体啊、杂志啊、政治分析家的这些现象来看。那么特别有意思的是他的这个分化，就是红衫军、黄衫军，大家都在这个我们大概报道，不过可能也不见得很清楚到底是红衫军是支持谁，黄衫军是支持谁。那他主要一开头他讲了一个现象，就是说在泰国当代的这个政治里面，非常剧烈的这个斗争和分化，甚至是这个用枪手是吧？而且这个互相双方的用语都极其的这个难听，很丑。比如说英拉是他们的总理，我们在这儿经常说是美女总理，在那儿的人就会说她是巨女、愚蠢、白痴， 反过来也会说别人是同性恋，是懦夫腐败，反正互相都在用这些词，然后他也从这儿来开始那到底这些人里面到底怎么去描述他们的这个纷争？比如说他们是保守啊，还是这个叫民粹啊，专制啊，民主啊，国王啊，反国王啊，这些很多的这些对立的称谓，有一些恐怕也很难用。比如说这个谁是保守，谁是民粹这些，因为这个双方互相指控。但是围绕国王问题，也许有点真实。另外就是他其中特别提到的，其实它的这个南部北部这个区域里面有差别，有这个比如说这个黄衫军在南部，那北方和这个南部的黄衫军和这个曼谷的这个市民，他们这个比较一致，就是基本上曼谷的人跟这个黄衫军有关系，但是北部的这个红衫军就是完全是另外一样的。这个他特别要说的是，这种地区分布呢，它是不是这个怎么说？这个地区分布是非常漫长的时期里面形成的，不是现在的这个政治的差别。那他说这个背景的一个原因，是因为他要说这个今天的话题是这个华人的这个认同问题，因为那个时候的这个华人认同是一个很怎么说很混乱的一个状况。当时有一些词，比如说我也不知道那个 Jack 就是说早期说中国人的这个用语，这些用语呢，在中国人后来被认为这种用语是这个羞辱性的，后来也用了一些混的一些名字，比如说改成了 Long 这样的这个名字，这都是很奇特的。那其中呢，这个他大概的这个意思啊，他举的这个例子，比如说他开头讲一个故事，讲一个他遇到一个司机，他问这个司机支持谁，这个司机说我支持他信。那你为什么支持他信呢？因为他是什么政治观点啊什么不，他说他是因为他是这个客家人。他说我们客家人呢，那个诚实啊、勤劳啊、努力啊，等等等等。那他就问他说，这个阿毗什呢，那个他是支持那个这个黄衫军的。那他说那个阿毗什啊，这个他是福建人，所以他诡计多端，又投机又如何如何。所以这个那么其他的还问到别的政治人物，那也不行，说他是海南人，很无知。这样有海南人不对，他们互相之间有这个互相的歧视。那他说的这个意思就是说，这个在很长的时间里面，他追溯到几个重要的时期。我这只能一个时期呢是明末，因为明末的时候呢，有很多的这个华人，因为满洲入侵的原因，就流落到东南亚去。那么这个最早呢，还是这个广东、福建这个地方的人，以后呢再要晚一些，是海南客家的人就到了那。其实这个黄衫军、红衫军里面很多人，他的原来都是这个华人，他好多都是华人。他也举了一个例子，就是他们我也搞不清楚那个时期的一个这个后来成为这个国王的这么一个人。实际上他也有这个华人的这个血统。那换句话说呢，在东南亚，特别是在泰国这个很长的这个历史时期里面，他这个认同很大的海外华人的认同，他其实内部我们叫他海外华人，但是他其实里面是分离成为非常清楚的有不同的认同，都是根据他的地方性。甚至不仅是族裔，而且是一个地方从一个小地方来的，他们这样的能够这个形成的这个认同。那其中他又用到一些这个称谓，我也不大能够我现在在重复这些词，我还不大重复的出来。但是大体上可以这么说，就是说当时有这样的一个状况，就是广东、福建的 先过去，然后是海南客家。那么广东的这一批人呢，最早其实他是到越南，然后再往那边走呢，就到了柬埔寨。那福建的这些人呢，他多半是从这个菲律宾、这个印度尼西亚这个区域。不过他这当中也指着说，这个因为有铁路、有公路，等等这些有贸易的原因，所以他就开始这个流动往南，更往南走。那也就是在这个背景下，就可以理解这样的这个流动和变化呢，到了19世纪呢，是跟欧洲的这个殖民主义有关的。那它其中它举到了两波，一波呢是这个西班牙对菲律宾的殖民。在这个时期里面，这个福建人往返于这个福建和这个菲律宾之间，产生出来的一些这个认同，因为他们会问你们是谁啊？你们是中国人啊？诸如此类。那后来就是这个英国人到那个地方去。那英国人到那当然是这个要搞这个鸦片的这个贸易。他当中还提到呢，就是说这个在这个时期，因为比如说客家人的这个为什么说要晚得多呢？他这个早期在明末的时候有这个广东福建，大家都知道这个其中呢1850年代到1860年代，由于这个太平天国起义，这个对于南中国的这个影响破坏很大。等到他镇压的这个过程当中，大量的因为大家都知道这个太平天国起义是很中心的这个角色是客家人从广西出来的，所以这些人后来就到南洋去了。那这样的就产生了这个一个新的这个关系。那么英国人到了这个地区以后，他们主要是这个做鸦片贸易，但是他们打的口号是要打破这个泰国朝廷的这个垄断。那其中呢，这个一个最主要的口号，大家都已经听出来了，就是自由贸易就是基督，基督就是自由贸易。所以这些最早的我们大家说起这个鸦片贩子、毒品贩子，我们现在想到哥伦比亚，想到这些，其实英国人就是最早的鸦片贩子，也是最大的鸦片贩子。那另外呢，他提到这个就是当时这个因为英国人的殖民，所以他有这个要搞这个税收。那么有很多的，他算了好多种，这个有各种各样的这个不同的行业的这个不同的产业，大量的这个税收从这儿出来。那在这个税收要有这个税收的这个过程当中，他就这个很多人是要填写这个税表啊，其中有一些部分是要填这些东西。所以实际上他的表述里面就说，因为原来这个华人共同体里面是有很多由于职业、由于行业等等区别的非常清楚的多重的地方性的认同。当然到了殖民这个时代呢，由于西方人的介入呢，这个华人作为一个总的这个共同体被逐渐建立形成。也就是说，这个最早的这个华人的这个认同不完全是他一开始因为这些人不识字，到了这些地方他也不觉得自己，所以那个有好多的各种各样的称谓。但是到了这个时候，这是第一波，就是由于西方殖民主义的原因产生的。那么第二波的原因就是到了他讲到了这个以后到辛亥革命，新的民族主义、新的这个中国认同的出现，蒋介石、毛泽东等等。那然后他又提到了这个简单的说提到了这个华人的这个由于特别是到二战以后。那二战以后呢，实际上在这个地区真正掌权的是军事政权，所以实际上是军人。所以呢，在这个背景下，这个华人的忠诚就受到怀疑，就是他们经常会怀疑这个因为客观上说，这个泰国共产党的这个里面很多人也是华人，他基本上是以华人为中心的这些游击队，而且泰国的经济也主要掌握在这个华人的这个手里面，但是他们呢没有这个政权，那个政权基本上是军人这个控制的。到70年代以后，到这个慢慢的发生这个变化，所以这个后代二代以后的这些华人呢，他们慢慢的原来的主要的职业就是做生意，所以他们控制了这个经济。但到了这个时候， 这些华人开始要改换这个身份，所以他们很多人就变成了他们的第二代就受教育，就变成了医生啊、教授啊，等等的这些职业的这些人物了。那么这个是他也提到了这个冷战的这个时期，因为美国的介入，然后大学制度的扩张，这个大学生的规模从1万到10万这样大量的这个出来，所以这个很多华人家庭也要赚钱给孩子。那一直到1973年的时候，这个时候军事统治逐渐的这个瓦解了。那也是在这样的一个背景下，可是在这个过程当中，也有开头也有一些学生的运动，还有一些学生运动跑到太空那边去跟他们联合。但是等到中国改革开放以后，那因为中国停止了对东南亚共产主义运动的支持，所以很快这个也就垮掉了。那到77年以后呢，基本上它的不同的政治力量，比如说它的党派，它的党派基本上都不再有左翼的，全都是保守的，其实无非是不同的保守派的政党而已。所以而这个里面就有很多的华人的这些势力出来。那么将来的泰国会怎样？谁也说不清楚，因为现在蒲美蓬国王已经很老了，在他之后会不会变成共和国，还是怎么样？谁也不说，但是大家心里头好像总是在想会讲这个问题。那么现在的当然一个很重要的新的现象就是说，过去呢，这些有钱的这些生意人，他们是要控制议会，过去他们就进入议会变成但是呢，现在他们不满足于他们其实是要控制政权，就是要控制政权。实际上他是说回应到一开头他认同问题，因为实际上也就是说泰国的政治斗争里面，现在的几派的不同的斗争里面，实际上跟华人，可是这些在中国可能大家已经不觉得他们是跟是不是华人已经不存在这样的一个问题，这当然跟新的忠诚度跟历史的变化有关，但逐渐的呢，就是它的随着皇权逐渐的衰落，随着军事军权也开始在政治领域开始多少是退下去，那么行政权的争夺变成了一个很重要的一个问题，不同的党派，然后这些社会运动的新的我们可以看到的这些动员，就是他一开头讲到的红衫军黄衫军的问题。那也就是说，他在这样的一个讨论里面勾勒了一个大体的一个历史脉络，来分析华人的从我要这不是他的说法，好像是分成很多那些多元的认同，到殖民主义，到近代民族主义，到共产主义运动等等，形成某种有作为一个统一的某一种认同的形式，再加上在冷战、二战、冷战以后的变迁当中，逐渐的又变成了别的这个东西，所以他讲海外华人认同的悖论，大概是这样的一个意思。我这里面有一些用词我也没听明白，因为用的是当地的语言，我说不大通。我问我的安译是好像秘密会社比较深可是我也不知道原来好像是从中文翻的，这些中文其实都是方言，所以也许是客家话，也许是广东话，我也不知道，所以我也不懂。我只能给大家大概的勾勒这样一个线索。Sorry for translator to love translation。现在大家可以，我们现在就开始提问。
我来。 honor to meet you, Mr. Anderson. I am Hemong from Guizhou. Do you know Hemong? In Chinese we call it Miao. Well, I want to say something about my hometown. In 1905, a British missionary named Pollard came to Guizhou and built a church and school, bringing modern medicine, agricultural technology, and so on. And now, in 21st century, being exposed to Han cultures from the childhood, many of my friends are getting farther and farther away from the elder generation, including me. My ancestors who were taught to speak English and convert to Christianity, were they purebred? And our generation who are forgetting our own language and custom, do we have the right to speak on behalf of Hemong? How do you define the word purebred? Yeah, thank you. 也许我的这个词用的有问题。我的意思就是说，就以前有一个叫伯格里的英国传教士来到贵州石门坎传教，然后还教了那里的苗族人信基督教，还有说英语，还带来很多先进的技术。然后就是我现在就想，就从那个时候起，也许我的先辈们就已经开始从那个原始的社会慢慢转型了。然后就是。对，然后就像我们这一代人的话，就是作为一个基本上是在汉族语境中长大这种苗族人，我们是不是还有权利，或者就我们是否是有话语权，能够说自己是代表苗族的？就这么个问题，因为我感觉，毕竟我们自己这一代与父辈之间的鸿沟太大了，就是这样。也许我有些用词 purebred， 也许用的不对。
再提几个问题。
Thank you.
麻烦王老师帮忙翻一下，就是，上次讲座的时候，那个安德森先生讲到说，他有一个笑话吧，算是，就是卖掉阿拉斯加的这个问题。然后我想知道安德森先生自己是怎么看待这个问题的。然后，将来人类有没有可能就是设想或者创造出一种弹性的可以交易的主权形式，比如说，两个国家都对某个地方宣称拥有主权，然后但是其中一方实际占领这个地方，另一方呢又不能放弃，然后大家就可能将来发生这个世界大战，还要死很多人。那有没有可能就是把这个地方就干脆就以某种合理的方式把它卖掉，这样就可以保持和平的状态？
这就是商学院的吗？商学院哪个吗？谁？太奇葩了。好的。 嘲笑的太明显了。Too young, too simple. Sometimes naive.
Thanks for your speech, Anderson. And I have one question. We know in the Southeast Asia countries there are many history heroes and authority leaders in their backgrounds, just like the Philippines and the Thailand have some Chinese blood in their ancestors. And after the World War II, they have maybe half the century gone with win. And I want to know, because you are familiar with Thailand and you're familiar with West Asia, I want to know how much the blood traditional still remain in their culture, or it's just a mix in their, just like the colonialism and the Western culture. I just want to ask this question. 我的意思就是说，在东南亚有很多的国家，他们的祖先或者说民英雄有中国的血统。然后，那我想问一下，就是经过了殖民主义，然后经过了第2次世界大战，以及这个就是对于这个现代化的这个全球化这样潮流以后，就中国血统这样的一个概念，在他们里面还对他们形成自己的共同体有多么大的强烈的认识？还是说他们就像现在刚安德森先生说的，只是一个概念形式的，我们是温州人，或者说我们是福建人这样的一个形式，是否有一个整体这样的一个概念？
It's an interesting contrast because in the Philippines, the Spanish system was to have a legal category, which is called the mestizo mixed Chinese, and that means a mix between immigrants and native women, most of all. And so they couldn't escape from this. I mean, they were mixed. On the other hand, they were treated in some ways better than the natives. But the crucial thing, I think, is that they had been forced, more or less, to become Christians, Catholics. And this was the way up the social ladder. I mean, they got the backing of the church, and by the middle of the 19th century already, there are plenty of mixed people like this who are starting to push for a national independence. And it's the crucial thing is the religion, because if they were not Catholics, then they would not have the population behind them. But becoming Christians and very reasonably serious about that, they could then stand as a symbol for the independence of the country. And that's not possible in Indonesia. Religions are different. And it doesn't really work here because there was no revolution here, there's no independence, strife for independence. So this situation of the Philippines is that every single president of Philippines since World War II, every single one has been a mixed person. And nobody makes a big noise about it. It's okay, they're all Catholics. But it's not possible in Thailand, which is much more tense and much more ambiguous.
大家可以听懂吧？还要我翻译吗？我大概简单的说，他就说这里有一个，他回答的是最后一个问题，他那个一个对比，就是说菲律宾跟泰国的这个对比。那泰国因为西班牙人统治的时候呢，他把他建立了很严格的这个分类的这个制度，所以那个华人血统的问题，因为他是比如说你混了多少，1/2、1/4、1/8，这个是很清楚的，你永远逃不掉你跟这个血统的关系。但怎么去解释当时这个菲律宾的这个独立运动、民族解放运动的这个，是因为它这个按说这么混乱，你这么混的话，这么多的怎么会它形成这个认同呢？原因很重要的一点，不管你是混了多少，你变成了那个天主教的这个天主教徒，所以那个宗教在这个当中有这个起到了这个民族统一形成统一认同的一个很重要的因素。那泰国的情况呢，就要暧昧很多，因为它里面是这个没有这样的清晰的这个区分，所以情况是非常不同。
Can I read my question first, then I can give it to you. First off, I want to say thank you to professors for sharing with us this historical evolution. And my question is pretty straightforward. My question is that where did that hatred, or we can call dissatisfaction, over Chinese people come from? Because we know that many Chinese people, they came down there, they made a lot of money, and they hurt local economy highly maybe. But is that the main reason, like the only reason that Thai people, they hate Chinese people that much? One of my wild guesses is that maybe they have been colonized, so they got this kind of proud over Chinese people from Western people. Is that another reason maybe, or is there any other reasons for this hatred or dissatisfaction?
The interesting thing about this is that there's never been a serious armed attack on Chinese in Thailand.
I mean, it's a kind of feeling like.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Yeah, Indonesia, yes, but not here. The people who hate each other most are the Chinese. Different kinds of Chinese. But you have to understand, and that's why I went a bit long, which is in Southeast Asia, they don't know much about, don't care much about Chinese history. But the fact is that this flow to the south, it's not primarily, in my view, about making money that they do, but it's escape. I mean, you have to think about everything that happened. I mean, the ghastly final victory of the Manchus after how many years, 40 years. And you think about the horrors that came out of the Taiping rebellion. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people killed. And then finally, of course, the warlords in the 20s and 30s. I mean, if anybody is responsible, it is mainland, if not the small people themselves. And these people don't by themselves want to do anything bad or dangerous, but they're desperately pushed by the policies of the center. That's why I'm never excited about any king. They always kill people on large scale. That's my prejudice.
刚才那位他提的问题就是说，这个在这个对华人的歧视，这个是从哪里来的？会不会是这个因为他们从西方殖民者那得到的？这个主要是问的是泰国。那安德森教授的大概的回答就是说，实际上泰国没有什么对于华人的这个攻击，很少这个有这样的攻击。那这个我刚才说这个印度尼西亚，我们当然知道有。那后面他也说，这个如果要讨论到这个暴力问题的话，我们看这个东南亚华人的这个就是华人往东南亚的南行吧。这个南行的过程主要是因为满洲入侵，由于太平天国，由于后来的这个军阀混战，所以它的主要的这个暴力的这个起源是从这儿来的，倒不是在那个地区。那其他的。那当然他没有提到的这个主要不是分析这个印尼的情况，主要是说泰国的这个情况。
谢谢。我想直接用中文提问。那个安德森先生的那个想象的共同体曾经给了我很大的启发。那么我们来看，就是像这样一种基于民族认同而建构现代国家，或者说建构现代国际地缘政治关系的这样一种政治秩序，实际上它兴起的时间没有超过200年。尤其是从欧洲的中心这样发生而传播出来的。这样一种今天的这种政治秩序的法则，在西方内部因为特殊的历史关系是可以操作得很好。但是我们看这样一套秩序在南美、在东南亚、整个东亚、中亚这些地方，都引发了巨大的冲突。那么我是想问，比如像在东亚这块土地上，曾经在民族国家建构之前，实际上我们这里可能更多是一种差序包容体制，或者说在朝贡贸易体制下的一种多元共主制。那么今天呢，我就是想问，安先生是不是可以，我们今天是不是能够有一种去想象，或者说去建构一套新的能够超越这种民族国家认同 超越今天这种就由于民族国家的认同在地理空间上面划定范围而带来的很多现在政治矛盾的这样一种政治架构，能不能超越它，然后去想象一种全新的能够解决更多矛盾的一种新的政治秩序的架构形式。
I think my question is somehow related to hers. But actually, back to your talk, and I can see the paradox. You know, in the nation building, you have the identity. You build up your identity with the nation. But actually, here you talked about it's kind of you always would go back to the origin you came from. So it comes from paradox. My question, actually, I want to ask is about Xinjiang. So one argument would think the problem now in Xinjiang is because the failure of nation building, because we treated the minority, give them a lot of privilege, and so it comes they don't have strong identity of like a citizen. So based on what you said today, actually they always, you know, even you have this citizenship or you have this nationalism, you still would go back to the origin you came from based on what you said today. So back to her question is, does it mean in globalization we need a new framework to understand all these kind of questions? Okay, thank you. Hello. My question is, since Mr. Anderson has discussed the concept of identity tonight, and it seems to me that you mainly focus on the political identity or the political aspect of identity. So I wonder, in discussing the immigration issue, what, in your opinion, what levels or aspects of identity should be taken into consideration? And also, since you hold it, or from my point of view, you hold the opinion that nationalism is actually a result of capitalism. So in the capitalism of contemporary form, or maybe globalization, how do you think this will infect or influence the concept of identity or nationalism?
Well, the point is, I think maybe it's a little bit misunderstood. I mean, my 30-year-old, rather humble now, theory is not that capitalism somehow creates nationalism. I mean, when capitalism was already there in the 16th century, and centuries later, before nationalism really comes into place, they're really quite separate things, but they have a connection by the 18th, 19th centuries. And so I don't really think that the way you addressed it is, I mean, I'd love to blame capitalism for almost anything, but sometimes one has to be lot of these successes of the capitalism, I think, often turns back on the authors. I mean, it's an interesting case in, I'll give you a good example in Thailand right now, it's contemporary. The overseas Chinese are really in a very struck position, because if they say publicly and often that they are children of Chinese, it's awkward for them. I mean, in their private lives, they do some ceremonies for the ancestors, this kind of thing, but they don't much in public. Because if they do that, it means effectively saying, well, you're not Thai. And they're afraid of that, and they don't want that to happen. At the same time, I mean, they have no real interest in Thai culture. And that's why if you go to see Bangkok, with its huge middle class, it's amazing that there's no culture whatever. I mean, everybody spends time in malls or in salons or a hairdresser or something, or to go gambling, or to go watching American. They love American movies. I can't understand that at all. But there's nothing there. I mean, and I noticed in the huge assemblies this January, February, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of beautiful young Chinese girls, or Chinese, should we say, something. And what is astonishing watching them on TV is most of the time what they're doing is taking pictures of themselves. And enjoying that I look good here in this crowd, and then what they yell for is really absolutely empty. It's like, we want democracy. No, not a clue what that is. We love the king. Well, that's a cliche too. And we hate these people. We really hate these people. That's it. I mean, there's nothing there at all. It is really amazing to see these uneducated, educated people. I think they have no idea what they should say. And so it's just a bunch of cliches, and it's true on the other side as well. I mean, they don't refresh Thai culture much. They do some way. But in a way, they can't allow themselves to have a public Chinese kind of culture to be sort of more or less private. It's rather stressful. I mean, if you want to decide who you are and what you want to do. The crucial thing is, if you're just an ordinary person, nobody cares if you are Chinese or not. But the higher you go up in the system, and a lot of these Chinese who desperately want to be high up, desperately want to be important politically, economically, and so forth, then to do that, they have to somehow make themselves Thai. So there's a kind of public Thai and a private Chinese. And it can't be psychologically really easy to do that. I'm sorry, too long.
基本上两个方面的问题，他这个一个是关于刚才那位同学提的，说这个民族主义是从这个资本主义发展的这个话，根据他的理论，他是要澄清一个这个误解，他的这个基本观点并没有认为这个资本主义创造了民族主义。资本主义很早就出现了，民族主义直到是在这个19世纪才开始这个出现，登上这个历史舞台。我们上一次我记得讲的时候，我翻译的时候用了一个耦合这个词，就是偶然的形成了这个关系，而并不是说一个产生了另外一个的这个关系，这是没有这样的一个关系。第二个就是他对这个泰国的这个华人呢，因为刚才讲到这个认同问题，泰国华人他发现那些受过教育的、没受过教育的，最主要的是他在这个公开和私人这个两重范畴内，他的叙述是非常不一样的，因为他们在私下里，他们有时候会说自己是华人，更主要的是他们那个在私下里，他的那个文化。 他的这个文化的这个生活是接近于华人的，而且他们对那个泰国文化，就是原来的那个泰的这个文化没什么兴趣。当然，他们对美国电影、对什么这些赌博什么这些都有，但是基本上是华人的文化。那你要是问他们这个如果在公开的这个场合，如果你是说你是华人的话，那当然就会碰到一个问题，就是你的这个忠诚度的这个问题，好像你不是泰国人，那就带来问题。但实际上在比较低的这个层次，这都不是就很容易，好像他们看起来有矛盾，但其实也没有什么，没有觉得。但是当这个华人要上升到政治的这个高层的时候，那这个时候如果你要说他是华人就成问题了，因为他这些华人到了一定的政治高位的时候，一定非常强调自己是泰人，所以这个一定是这个泰人，所以他主要大概的这个意思。谢谢。
Thank you. I noticed that the first student's question was left out, so I was wondering whether Professor Anderson could answer his question, because I think that means a lot to him. He's an ethnic minority, so I think, and I also have one question to ask Mr. Anderson. My question is about whether we Chinese people should adopt some ethnic, some minority policy from the United States, because we know that in the history, America also gave some priorities to the minorities like the African American and Italian, Hispanics, but also this kind of policy aroused many blames like overcorrection or something else. And nowadays we know that in China we also face this kind of problems. Like we define some ethnic groups as some minorities, but we won't let them be independent. So there arises many contradictions between the ethnic groups and the Han group. So I'm wondering whether we can absorb some experience from the United States facing this kind of problems. Thank you.
I think I have to just say something brief. The thing about the United States is that officially, and I think it's in reality like this, there is no permanently dominating ethnicity. And it looks like in another 20 years, according to the social scientists, there will be more non-white English type Americans. There will be more blacks, Asians, Mexicans and so forth. And it makes some right-wing people quite nervous and anxious. And this is really a Protestant white country, but I think it's not going to work. And the importance of the Americans have on the idea of equal position in the Constitution and so forth, this is still very strong. And it would be very difficult for anybody to say, I'm the master, I am the majority, and all you minorities just shut up. No, they can't do that. They don't have any imperial past in the European or Chinese sense. I mean, they haven't had emperors, they haven't had huge nobilities and all that. The ideology here is everybody's ordinary. And that's very different from places like Europe or China or Russia, for example, or India, which have very strong imperial social systems.
Hello, Mr. Anderson. 我有2个问题想问一下，不好意思，那个就是泰国华人他们有没有一些就是 那个文化活动，就是比如说像孔庙的一些祭祀，或者是道教的一些传统的祭祀活动，像是中国传统信仰，像关公啊、土地公的这些拜拜活动。就是因为我自己现在在做印尼华人的一些研究，所以印尼华人他们是有很多这样的庙宇，他们都会做这些活动。还有就是泰国年轻一代的华人，他们可能就会变成混血。这些华人他们到底还承不承认自己是泰国人，自己是中国人？他们到底是承认自己是中国人的身份还是泰国人的身份？因为我自己在做印尼的研究的时候，他们很多年轻的一代人，他们不承认自己是华人，对，他们都认为自己是印尼人，跟华人没有什么关系。Thank you.
I think this is something which is it's unpleasant, but it's quite common. And that's why I say the culture is kind of empty in a way, because they want to be somehow Thai, they want to be somehow American, they want to be at the same time Chinese, without a stable place. And therefore, yeah, they can go to the Taoist temples, but more and more the young generation doesn't go. I don't have statistics on this, but I can tell you one thing that's an astounding statistic on Thai Buddhism, that 12 years ago, the annual number of people, men, who were in the monk robe, 6 million. And 2 years ago they did the thing again, and the number dropped from 6 million to 1.5 million. That is a fantastic collapse. And I don't think it comes from the rural areas, it comes from the cities, where parents are saying this is a waste of time. You need to get a good job. You don't want to spend a year in a monastery. And this is a real problem, because many of the families who want their children to be really Thai, the idea is that you really have to go to be a Buddhist for a while and go and do this, and then now more and more, what's the point? The main thing is that we have a really good job and we enjoy life, and we get to see the movies and so forth. I mean, it's really a secularization of the culture, which isn't just for the Chinese, but for all this kind of middle class groups, which are not now, are no longer exclusively Chinese. You feel sorry for them, because I mean, they don't really do Chinese, they don't really do American, they don't really do Thai. I mean, it's really, I feel sorry. I would hate to be in that kind of position. But there it is. I mean, life is like that.
好吧，那个现在已经9点过了，所以我们今天的这个讲座，就到这儿结束了。那个我们也用热烈的掌声，感谢安德森教授这2次在清华的讲座。安德森教授的这个，他还会在北京，在清华访问几天。如果有一些同学还有一些什么问题，也可以通过这个我们这儿的有几位啊，这个陕庆、明艳，他们这可以跟他们 接触，你们有什么问题希望还要问的，可以传给这个安德森教授，或将来会用什么样的方式还可以交流。另外，就是我知道有很多媒体的朋友在这儿，就你们那个如果是把这个讲座的这个翻译你们要上网的话，你们最好是先让我们check 一下，因为有一些这个翻译呢，我们看的准确度啊等等的，我们那个需要看一看，那个也跟安德森教授征求一下他的这个意见，然后我当然觉得传播也都好，我没有那么多的需要垄断，只是说这个因为那个传播一旦错的出去就会有问题，所以这个